Peace to the saints. It's the one and only. It's the big homie, your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber. And today we are talking about the continent of Africa, but specifically we're talking about the building of SASN Africa. We're going to get onto the continent, do a number of things there. And I have a presentation that will take you through and talk about our plans. But during this call, there are a number of folks who live on the continent presently. And these are going to be the folks who will be the nucleus of this movement. We've invited all of them to come on and join this conversation on screen. I'm going to yield the floor for you to introduce yourself.
My name is Marquett Burton. I'm speaking from Bayelsa, Nigeria.
Okay. Can you center that for people in terms of their understanding that in relation to its in relation to Abuja or Lagos, so they have a sense of where you may be?
Okay, I'm currently in the South Nigeria. Bayelsa State is the South. Where I will be speaking on Benue is Central Nigeria. Lagos is the West.
Okay. And so this is going to be a part of our discussion. The true purpose of this is we're building up SASN Africa. And the strategy that we'll use on the African continent will be unique because the economic situation is unique. The tech infrastructure is different. Access to certain resources is not as it is in North America or other places that we operate. And so now we're going to build our plan for today and the future. There's a number of pieces of breaking news in Africa, but in particular, you're Nigerian. And I actually do have a clip I want to look at with you. But I think we'll let you speak on your perspective of it. Then maybe we'll look at the clip. And then we'll talk through some other items. And of course, for those who are African in Africa, feel free to send me a DM and I'll give you the link if you'd like to join on screen. And I do want to let everyone know an extraordinarily busy day. And I may have to step away from a moment. I have some furniture being delivered, unfortunately, at random. So anyways, I yield the floor to you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. There is currently a very great tragedy happening in Nigeria. There's a massacre going on. And I believe the real issue is that this massacre did not just start, even though for a lot of people, and even for a lot of Nigerians, they are just finding out about it. And, for that reason, I give accolades to Donald Trump. He spoke about it. And suddenly everyone cares. But I want to speak not only about the evil that is going on. I also want to speak to Nigerians because I want to speak caution into our minds. There is one thing. There is a strategy of imperialism, and it is divide and conquer. And I see it happening right now in Nigeria. It is something that we see that's happened in several other countries that have supposedly gotten Western help. Is one thing I want us to understand is no country at all does things like this. No country intervenes in this manner out of the goodness of their heart, and certainly not the United States. I don't mean to say anything that sounds bad, but it is the truth. And there is a particular tactic that is currently being employed by Trump. I will say this again. Donald Trump has brought awareness to this issue in a way that no one else could. Our government almost did not care, did not highlight these issues, and even downplayed it up until this moment. But there is one thing that we have to understand is this is the first thing. I'm going to say it as straight as possible. Donald Trump is racist. Donald Trump doesn't like you. It doesn't. It is the truth. It is the truth. It doesn't. This is all it takes to understand that there is an agenda here is to look at how he treats the people who look like you and I in his own country. There is no way he could treat the people like that in such a manner and love us because we are Christians. But everything about how he has addressed the issue screams that we should worry. And that is the honest truth. First thing is empathy is selective. There is domestic leverage. He has this there's domestic leverage. He has this white nationalist is the savior of Christianity around the world, and it is simply untrue. And stuff like this really works in places like Nigeria. We have a problem in Nigeria. Is we get
I'm gonna
most.
interrupt you periodically for a number of reasons, and so I just want to give you a heads up on that.
Okay.
If you'd be kind enough to pronounce your last name for me once more.
Praye
Oh, that's
Bafade.
your name. That's your last
What?
name.
Can you hear me? Oh,
What?
my last name.
Yes,
My last name is Bafade.
Bafade. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, that's it.
Okay,
You can pronounce
very
it
good.
really well. Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Bafade,
Yeah.
when you say he brought awareness to this, my fundamental question is, is that necessary and is that a good thing? Meaning that the awareness he brings is largely the awareness of Western powers, uh, whether we're talking about the countries in the West or the NGOs that they operate through or the United Nations. And when you bring the awareness, of course, as you noted, it's not for altruistic purposes, it's usually for extractive purposes. And
Yeah.
so that then emboldens the Western powers to then go into Nigeria to help, to spread democracy, to enhance freedom. And so the real question is bringing awareness of the Western powers, which is to say, is that a good thing? Is that going to be helpful?
Absolutely not. This is, and I will get a lot of hate for saying that, probably because the truth is there is suffering. And one thing you will hear is, well, if your family were there, you wouldn't say this. And, maybe it is true. Maybe if my family were there, I wouldn't care about everything else that would follow. All I would care about. But this is extremely dangerous for our country. He outright said, this is something to worry about when a foreign leader can say to a sovereign nation that he would not only cut aid, but if they do not respond, he would send his troops. That is reason to be concerned.
Absolutely.
And no one is concerned. We are eating it up. And it goes to show not just how pained the citizens are, but also how extremely uninformed we are of Western imperialistic foreign policy.
Fantastic. And that leads me to my next point. And I really appreciate where your head is at. I've traveled the continent widely, and unfortunately, I don't find many folks who are as well informed as you, not only from an information standpoint, but you're very well positioned in terms of seeing the true threat that is ahead of you and I. So let me go ahead and pop up this slide deck, which we're going to populate as we go through. And this is really a historic moment in which we get to building, because unfortunately, I don't have the sense that people are working on this. So we're talking SASN Africa, which is to say we have sections of the SASN all over the world, much higher penetration, obviously, in North America and Europe. And then we have significant presence in Asia and the Middle East. But Africa, we don't have the organization. We have the population, but not the organization. And so our big push is to start with SASN Africa. And then as we collect higher numbers of saints in the continent, then it'll be more regionally focused, which will have more utility. And for example, there's a plan of expansion which goes as follows. So to start with, countries of focus, and this is in no particular order, and I'll explain why. We have Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia. Reasons being, one of the, and I'm going to take this off the screen so we can have a little chat about this stuff. And there's so much context that people need. So this conversation will not be as linear as I would like. But like, for example, whereas in Europe, it's very easy to travel European country to European country, primarily on the rail system, and even the flights are very low cost. In the United States, the flights are expensive and the rail system is largely in disrepair or non-existent, but you can still move around fairly conveniently. In the African continent, many people may be unaware, but sometimes say if you want to go from South Africa to Nigeria, you'd have to fly from South Africa to Europe and then to Nigeria. Or if you're in Ethiopia, you might want to fly from Ethiopia to Rwanda. You have to fly from Ethiopia to the United Arab Emirates, the Dubai airport, and then to Rwanda or Uganda or what have you. So the connectedness of Africa from a travel perspective is not terribly well developed. And obviously that keeps people separate. And even obviously within countries, there's a level of separation. There's a particular reason I identified these countries, but before we dig into it, you have comments, questions before we dig into that? Can you hear me? I was saying, do you have any comments or questions before we
Oh,
go in?
to me?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, no, of course, I do. I want to talk about something, and it is we as a country grew up, for a majority of Nigerians, loving America. And for a lot of Nigerians, even for me, especially at the age of 12, I didn't know why people didn't like black people. I didn't even get racism. And this is Nigeria. You're talking about a country, Nigeria, that believes that still sees Israel as the Holy Land. That is the kind of country that we are. And this is the honest truth. We are so disconnected with international politics. I grew up. This is what I grew up with the mentality that, say for example, Israel is God's nation and they are surrounded by a lot of troublesome enemies, but God always protects them. That is still today the perspective of a majority of Nigerians. I told my father that the Israel of today is not the Israel of the Bible. This is a new state, and he argued with me. This is the reality of Nigeria. And when you add things like tribalism, because we can be extremely tribalistic, and classism, you can understand why it is so easy for a Nigerian to pick up religious bigotry. And we, the people in the North, are not necessarily as educated as the rest of the country. You find people making fun of even the way they speak. These are terrible things. So it is
the way
very
they
easy
speak
to
English, or
divide
just the way they speak in
the
general?
way they speak English, the way they speak English, the way they pronounce things, and I'm going to be. This was something I used to do. This is the truth. It's not just
Why
people.
is it that the people in the North are not as educated?
When we were colonized, some places picked up education much faster. That's why you hear very often about Yorubas. Yorubas grabbed onto education really fast, but the North really went into the military. So the North controls the military of the country, but they are not so deep in education.
Meaning that particular tribe populates the military, or they control it? Like, meaning there's a lot of people from that tribe in the military, or they actually control the military?
They populate it, and they are in the best positions of authority. They've populated it from an early stage, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what ethnic and religious group are they?
Mostly Hausas, and they're usually Muslims.
Very good. Hausas and Muslims. Okay, very good. Okay. And so, one of the interesting things I found in Rwanda, and I asked many people, because this is a common question from me when I'm in the continent. I ask people, hey, what tribe are you from? And I might ask them something about their tribe. And in many cases, they can tell me what tribe they're from. In some cases, I'm just saying generally in the continent, they can tell me what language they speak and, let me hear some of the language. Very rarely can they recount the history of their tribe, unfortunately. And in the case of Rwanda, I had asked many Rwandans, what tribe are you from? And consistently they would say, I'm Rwandan. Now, I think that comes from, in part, the recent genocide there and the reaction to the genocide, and the way, I think Kagame is the president over there. I forget his name. It's a shame on me. He's very famous considering how small that country is, but he's very prominent on the international scene. But as a result of that genocide, now you talk to Rwandans and it's just, I'm Rwandan. It's not, I'm Hutu, or I'm Tutsi, or I'm this or that, which ultimately, for the stability of a nation state as a concept, that is the most powerful and effective thing. With Nigerians, I always hear, oh, I'm Igbo, I'm this, I'm that. And, and there's a lot of pride with that. Not to say that it's bad, but for example, you had mentioned that your parents and you had the idea that Israel is the Holy Land and needs to be protected. The question is, where did you first get that from?
Now that I think about it, it's just always been the default thought. I would go so far as to say there are pastors in Nigeria unaware of this fact, because this is what is preached. This is what we are told, and I on the multiculturalism thing. The truth is, and again, I'll get a lot of hate for this. I don't believe multiculturalism is necessarily a good thing for the unity of a country. And if I cite Nigeria as an example, it has gone extremely wrong. And there is also this crazy religious bigotry that that's attached, and that we've sort of grown into. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've only recently learned so much about Israel in the past year.
So to stick close to the question, and I'm presuming this is the answer. It was in school that you learned that Israel, or church, school or church, or
definitely,
church.
Definitely church. For us, school also has a lot of religion. So even in school, we hear about this. We hear, even if not directly, but the thought process is encouraged.
Very good. I'm just making some notes here. Okay. Now, have you traveled to any other African countries?
Other African countries? No. No.
And this is actually, far more common than I think people realize. Now, one, Africa is massive, so there's that, and then just the infrastructure challenges and also the linguistic issues as well. Mostly Africans, you don't find any to speak one language, but even still, you're going to have linguistic challenges. Going back to the presentation here. Oh, and by the way, actually, let me acknowledge some of the things people are saying. And shout out to the folks who are supporting the work. You can use the information at the bottom. Hopefully, you guys are going and following on Twitch, because the Google Corporation is a censorship corporation. So I thank those of you who vote with your feet and you use watch the stream on Twitch. May I acknowledge Arthur, supporting the work, came in using the Stripe link in the description of the YouTube video or on the profile on Twitch. May I also acknowledge shout out to Daquan, who just renewed his membership at thesasn.com. That's THESASN.com. Shout out to Mr. Williams, supporting via the Stripe link, as has Mr. Chima. Appreciate both of you. Shout out to those who support the work and this real movement that we have. May I also acknowledge Andre came in by Venmo. He writes, supporting the cause, SASN or nothing. And shout out to Andre. Like, the brother is Brazilian. If you're Black and you're watching and you're not supporting, you might be a part of the problem. I just want you to know that. I really do want you to know that. And I really do mean that, because the gentleman that said earlier, Trump bringing awareness has, been a good thing. Well, the problem is that the Blacks don't care enough about themselves. The Blacks in Nigeria, the Blacks in Africa, the Blacks in the diaspora don't care enough about themselves to get the job done. So if you're Black and you're watching this and you haven't supported, and there's pretty much everyone that's supported so far has been Caucasian, that might tell you something about yourself. And that's why I teach this ism. I really mean everything I say. Pay what you owe. And the things that you believe in, the things that you want to exist, you have to make it happen. You're a grown man. I really believe that. Shout out to Jamar, came in a strong way via PayPal. He writes, peace of the saints. I just sent you some necessary points to go over with the white supremacists you speak to. I sent the email. I did see the email. He says it's titled Arguments Against White Supremacy. to kill a racist viewpoint. I don't have any currently scheduled conversations with these guys, but next time I do, feel free to pop this back up to the top of my inbox before the discussion, and I'll make sure that I take a look at this. But, you know, white supremacy, these are interesting conversations that I have so that Black people know that they should be preparing, because we just sit there like as though we're not about to be victimized. It's like we've learned nothing from history, while the Israelis and the Jews have learned a lot from history. Shout out to RTBLA, comes in via PayPal. He writes, "Peace of the Saints, respect to you, Commander, and to my fellow Africans. By the way, I'm Chadian, not in Africa. Peace of the Saints, Albatar." I didn't know you were Chadian. Wow. Okay, shout out. And you don't meet Chadians every day. That's for damn sure. Shout out to Darren, and I'd love to visit. I acknowledge Darren writes, "Peace of the Saints." Shout out to Roderick, came in supporting the work via PayPal. May I also acknowledge Constantine, very consistent, writes tuition. Shout out to Charles, aka Fooled, sends in tuition. May I also acknowledge Brad writes, "Thank you for the work. It is truly my pleasure, and it is absolutely necessary." Michael writes, "Peace to the Saints" via PayPal, and Amanu writes, "Peace to the Saints." This is Salah Amanu here. "I am Nigerian, and I am from the Hausa tribe. Will love to join and give some insights on what is going on." Okay. Well, then go ahead and send me an email, and I'm going to return the link to you, and we will welcome you into this conversation, because this is a conversation of the Africans about Africa, so you must come. Shout out to Marcos, writes, "Peace to the Saints, tuition for today's live. Appreciate you." Shout out to the real ones. Marcos putting on a phenomenal event in San Antonio, Texas. We actually do meet up in real life. This is a real community. I invite you guys to tap in with Marcos, SASN San Antonio, and see what's going on. All right, fantastic. And I'll wait for Salah to send in his email, and I'll send you back the link. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the continent here. So here's what I'm looking at in terms of countries of focus: Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia. So firstly, with regards to how I feel about each country, I'm just going to give you a very quick rundown of my perspective. Then I'm going to yield the floor to the gentleman and see what I'm going to yield the floor to him first and see what his thoughts are. What comes to mind when you consider any of these particular countries? And if you don't know anything, just be like, "Hey, bro, I don't know anything about it," or "I think this, I feel that." Talk to me.
Okay. I speak about South Africa.
Okay.
I believe that South Africa is, has over time, and I understand the effects of apartheid and whatnot, and what it can do to esteem, but and I don't say this to be mean to any South African. I mean, I'm Nigerian, so I'm sure the South Africans know what I'm probably about to talk about, and it is what we, as the rest of Africa, and particularly West Africa, have noticed is there is a lack of, I believe, interest in unity with other African countries. And this is the thing you talked about. You said Black and African people do not even seem to love themselves. And we see it quite often. And forgive me again for saying this. We see cases where I see videos online where very proudly some South Africans come into a hospital and chase out everyone who is in South Africa. Mm-hmm. And there was a massacre that happened a few years back where there were several casualties. And what you notice about some of these things is the white people do not get the brunt of this hatred, I'm of the mind that we are one Africa, we're one Africa. And then you see something almost similar with, again, forgive me, with Abeshas, who love to demarcate themselves from Black people. You find a lot more unity amongst people in the diaspora, because they understand the need to be united, and we see a lot of disconnect and and sort of hatred amongst each other. And it extends so much even into things like our lack of unity shows in things like transportation, like you talked about. Look how easy it is to go from one place to another in Europe. Can you imagine that in order to go to a neighboring country, a country just 2 countries away from Nigeria, you need a visa? There is no unity even amongst West African countries. It is incredibly sad. It is incredibly sad.
I appreciate that perspective, and it fills out some of the most critical pieces. I agree. And what we have to actually fundamentally understand is at a level that lack of mobility and cooperation, it has its roots in separation in terms of identity. Like, who are we? The same? Are we Africans? Does that have meaning? And it also has roots in economic cooperation. So if the economic cooperation isn't there, then the infrastructure is not going to be built to link these places. So that was a very meaningful point. So you talked about South Africa. South Africa is only on this list because I'm going to be honest with you. I've been to South Africa many times, and perhaps if we were putting people on the list just based on the beauty of the women, they would for sure be on the list because those women are something serious. You hear me? But the mentality among the South Africans is, in fact, the worst on the continent. And I would even posit that it is the least African. The South Africans in their culture and in their thinking are the least African. And this is clearly as a result of the 10% that rules over them economically, politically, and culturally. And so I don't really like having the South Africans on the list, except that they have a developed economy. So there's a strength there. They're the strongest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. They have reasonable per capita income. They have a lot of potential. And most importantly, they're an English-speaking country. So as a result, that will allow us to more easily spread ism and ideas in South Africa. And this is not to say that there are not good South Africans or a number of South African women that I need to get pregnant. But mostly it's a less than ideal location, but we must operate in that theater. So that is the perspective on South Africa. And I think that one of the most critical things that you spoke of is going to be, and all of these lessons will have to be taught in Africa, but in South Africa in particular, we're going to have a hyper focus on education. So some of the objectives with SASN Africa is obviously education. We're going to start with creating a curriculum. And from the curriculum, we actually want to create a school, a physical school. So when we create the curriculum, that'll be mostly dispensed online. So it'll be an online course that is $1 to all. So you can pay $1 to take the course. So the idea is that it's not free, but it's basically free. We believe in capitalism. We want to ingrain the idea that you pay for everything you get. And I think most Africans know that. And the school is, of course, going to teach ism. But one of the major aspects is going to be rationalism versus religion. When we look today, and Sudan and Nigeria are both great examples of this, we see the competition of a white supremacist religion versus an Arab supremacist religion. We see the competition between Islam and Christianity, both of which are foreign to that land and came there by way of colonization. Now, is this going to piss off some Africans? You better believe it. It pisses off my grandmother. You better believe it's going to piss off some Africans. And that's going to be one of the fundamental pieces of education. And our chief aim is to figure out, well, if the way that you learned Israel is something you have to protect as a Black African, and you learn that in your churches, well, the question is, well, how do we replace that influence? If you learned it in school and it's reinforced in school, how do we replace that influence? And so that's the educational piece that we're starting. So often people talk about Pan-Africanism. There are no ideas and ideology with it. It's just the idea like we're all the same, but it's like, but why? So that's not explained. I'm going to yield the floor for your thoughts on what I just stated.
Okay. First of all, I am Christian. So
I know you're Christian.
Yeah, no, I'm Christian. But I will be honest. You see a lot of the white man's influence. I don't see Christianity like the white man's religion. I do not. I mean, naturally, you've probably heard the argument. Christianity was in Africa before. It doesn't matter. None of that matters to me.
Sure.
I couldn't be asked why Christianity. Truth is, I'm a Christian mainly because I was born into Christianity. I've grown to love it. My faith has been trained into Christianity. And so I am Christian. I believe in my faith, but I do see a lot, especially in Africa, the white man's influence. We heard there's a story about a guy. He had dreadlocks, and he was a pastor, and he's a young pastor, and the church was asking him to cut his hair. You can imagine something like that. You see, it is even our identity, the things, the things that are about us. We've been told more savage. You have dreads, and even we are not just colonized by our colonizers anymore, and that is the thing. People do not get the effects of colonialism. Our parents are colonizers now. Our pastors are colonizers. Our teachers are colonizers. You have an afro, and your father tells you don't look good until you cut it. I'm in I was in a university where you could not keep your hair, but if you were white, you could have hair. What kind of thing is that? That is deep-seated self-hatred. We also see things where people with certain kind of names, try to change them to make them sound more foreign. And your name is Agbaje. You don't want to say that because a white man has told you drink water and Stonebridge is what a name should sound like. And these things are not just in our educational system; they are also in our churches. And I believe that talking about it, educating people about it, and especially this is one thing I found out really works is sitting opposite a person with an opposing view, especially with people, and having a debate about it. Shatter that thing completely until you can make that person let go of the white man's influence.
Agree. I'm going to add one more saint on to the call. Peace to the saints. I yield the floor for you to introduce yourself.
Peace to the saints. My name is Saleh Aminu, and I was born and raised in Nigeria, but currently I live in the UK. At some point, I was a software engineer, but now I run a full mining business. And Mr. Saint, I did say you should look at my Instagram so you know I'm not one of these liars, because sometimes you have people that go on the internet to just lie and say stuff. Yeah, you can see the proof of work. You can see the private jets. We actually do this in real life. And mining, the reason why I wanted to speak about this is, first of all, I'm Hausa, so we are having a discussion regarding my people. And I have a very unique perspective on how things go over there in Nigeria, especially when it comes to mining. Now, the main reason why, number one, why Donald Trump is interested in northern Nigeria, I'm into the mining business, so I know what's there. Literally, I'm into lead and zinc. That's what I explore. And I know a lot of the mineral resources that's over there in that particular region. Speaking about Hausa, majority of Hausa people are, in fact, Muslims. That is true. And you do have, after the Civil War, I'm sure the other Nigerian brother would appreciate this.
Real quick, did you send me your IG?
Yes, I did. SSULLY triple underscore. You can see it. Just so we are
SSULY triple
no
underscore.
ULLY double L.
Okay, so
Y underscore.
I've SSULLY triple
underscore. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, carry on.
Yeah. So regarding this particular situation with Trump's intervention, I've seen a lot of Nigerians are sharing.
Mr. Is it Mbafe? Bafade. Please forgive me.
Yeah,
Bafade. Would you mute yourself while the gentleman is talking? Because I think you have some background noise.
Of course. Sorry.
Yes, sir. So as I was speaking, as it stands right now, a lot of people in Nigeria are very happy with Trump's intervention because they are not familiar with the history. As you would appreciate the Peace to the Saints, we often have this conversation on this channel, how uninformed Africans are. Me, myself, at some point, I was uninformed, to be honest. And, following the ism and doing all sorts of things, I have managed to become very educated on how everything works. And then I go back to why I came on this live regarding Trump's intervention and how Nigerians truly feel. When you go to the northern part of Nigeria, it looks backward if you're looking at it from from a Western mindset. Why? Because over there, religion is very strong. Like they don't allow people to be doing single motherhood. I grew up in Nigeria. I don't know a single woman that would literally get out there, get pregnant, and literally have a running baby daddy. It's just a baby daddy culture is prohibited. One. So it's a very religious side of the things where many people find it offensive. Because when you go to Lagos, I was born and raised in Abuja, and I would admit now Abuja is becoming ruined as well. When you put it side by side, the capital versus Lagos, and I have investment in Lagos and I have investment in Abuja right now. If you go over there to Lagos, you can see every night, he would appreciate this with the Nigerian brother. The prostitution rate in Lagos now is ridiculous. We have dirty December, people go over there to do all sorts of things. One. Compared to the north, till this day, when you look at the north, say Kano, for example, you go to Kano State, they still have what's called a hisbah. If you start to do any sort of prostitution, they'll come and pick you up and prosecute you under Sharia law. Like not actually harm you, but they will put you in jail and stuff like that. So that I already knew, everybody that knows time was coming that the West will intervene when it comes to that, because of the strong culture and strong religion. Because the houses, the origin of the houses, they've always had religion. They've always been Muslims before the Western intervention. So if he goes through the history of houses, you will realize over time, before the southern part of Nigeria, and peace to the same, excuse me, because I'm waffling a bit.
Sure.
There is north, there is south. The southern consists of the Yorubas and it consists of Igbos. And by the way, Nigeria has about 500 tribes, like languages. But the main four ones are four. You have the Igales, you have the Yorubas, you have the Hausas, you have the Igbos. And many people do sometimes confuse the Fulanis with Hausas. No, they are completely different people and they speak different language. But because of the way that majority of the Fulanis are, half of them are from Arabic side of things, and they literally came to settle in the Hausa lands, they become integrated between the two. Many Hausas did marry a lot of Fulanis. And as it stands right now, every single part of Nigeria, like Zamfara State, for example, just earlier today, they just caught a couple of Albanian people doing mining. I deal with Chinese people that I literally export my products to them. And I know a lot of the places that people are saying there is terrorism and stuff. If you look, the infrastructure is bad, but the mineral resources, excellent. Zamfara State, for example, is one of the highest when it comes to mineral resources. Secondly, is where people normally claim a lot of Christians are getting killed. And by the way, this is not me saying Christians are not getting killed. It is, but it's not because they are Christians. No, people are getting killed overall in that particular place. In Kaduna State, in Jos, which is Plateau, all of the people are getting killed, but specifically the Western propaganda decided to focus on Christians alone because it gets more attention. If it looks like people are getting killed because of their religion, that is not what's happening. Me, myself, I had to run for my life for some other situation before, truly. I'm being serious. Generally, I was just there. Peace to the saints. If you look at my profile, you see I was in Nigeria in March and I was doing everything there. I was there for Ramadan. I was doing all sorts of things. So people are not getting killed because they are specifically Christians. They're getting killed because they need to destabilize that particular region for the resources. These places happen to be in Benue. These places happen to be in Plateau State. These places happen to be in Kaduna. And before, if you look at the rich neighborhoods, right? This is how to actually justify what's happening. Look at the rich neighborhoods. You would never see a Christian, a Muslim fighting. I can name drop. I don't need to do this because I have asked them, but I can name drop a few people that are very politically connected that are my friends. They're Christians, and we've never a single time jump on a phone call and talk about, oh, are you a Muslim? Are you a Christian? No, we do business together. So this is a propaganda they use to control the poor over there.
I appreciate you sharing all of that, and especially the background, because we are all woefully ignorant in general, particularly about the continent of Africa and specifically about Nigeria, although I would venture to say that Americans, especially Black Americans, are probably more familiar with Nigerians and South Africans, being that they're Anglophone countries and we have significant portions of those persons in the United States. So I thank you for that background. And I tend to agree with you. And I want to share some notes here. And you see we're kind of going back and forth between current events and this ism, but we're really trying to plan for all time. So kind of taking in some of what you said in terms of this curriculum, and maybe we'll put it up to $2 because $1 just isn't what it used to be. But again, I'm going to reemphasize that the purpose of this is not to make money. You know, my courses are like $800 courses. So this is clearly is not to make money. This is to force a price and a value onto something so that people don't think it's worthless. But anyways, so this curriculum will eventually, it'll start online. It'll emerge into a school. And we'll teach purism. And we have this 3-sentence Bible: be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. And then we'll break down what this means. So the be yourself, well, who am I as a Black person? Obviously, if you're Albanian or Chinese, you'd think of who am I as a Chinese person. But in the case of SASN Africa, who am I as a Black person? There actually does need to be education on that, even on a scientific level of what is melanin. Understanding that chemical. What is my history? If I'm Igbo, if I'm from the north of Nigeria, what is my history? What is the Biafran War? How did we get here? What did colonialism do to us? What were we before colonialism? What will we be in the future? Who am I? You cannot be yourself unless you know who you are. Then here's the other part. Who am I not? So to be able to teach all of the Africans, wherever they may be, all peoples, in fact, but we're talking SASN Africa right now, who am I not? You are not a white person. You are not an American. You are not a British person. You're not an Australian. Hell, if you're in Nigeria, you're not a South African or a Tanzanian. Who am I not is an important thing to understand. And then in knowing who you are not, keep outsiders out. That's the biggest thing, is keeping outsiders out. Now, that does not mean we cannot do business. The gentleman talked about doing business with the Chinese. I've done business with the Chinese. I mean, in fact, globally, it's kind of necessary at this point to do business with the Chinese. True. But understanding that the whole goal is always to keep outsiders out. You'll never go into China and see Africans exploiting a mine of rare earth minerals. You'll never go anywhere in Europe and see Africans controlling any significant resource. You'll never go anywhere in India and see Africans in political office. But you will go places in Africa and see Indians in political office. You'll go places in Africa, you'll see Europeans in political office. You'll see Chinese managing economy. And so the fact of the matter is understanding who you are and who you are not. And like everyone else is doing, keeping outsiders out. And that's a part of the education that we want to raise this generation on. And what was spoken of early with regard to the hair is promoting the natural hair piece, which is to say, promoting what you actually are, the real hair. And of course, as we promote certain things, we also at the same time are disparaging fake hair or permed hair and skin lightening, which I know is popular in parts of Nigeria.
Very.
Right, unfortunately.
Very, it's very. Just piece to this, I have one single question, if you don't mind, please.
Go on.
Over time, when I first started into this business, I've done a lot of businesses with Africans, and they tend to cheat, steal more than many foreigners do. And I'm not saying we should do business with foreigners more than we do with Africans, but I think like we are creating this SASN in Africa. I think that's the best way we know which people to trust, who are the honest people. Because over there, it's a cutthroat business. And it's unbelievable the amount of times that whether somebody is a Muslim, Christian, they would cheat you out of everything they could. And I think that's the biggest thing that's happening right now is you're thinking, well, I'm helping Africans. Well, they will surprise you. I promise you that.
I agree with you.
Can I say something about that? I don't believe that's so much a disease as it is a symptom. You're Nigerian, yeah. So you would know this. Currently, the Nigerian middle class is very largely being propped up by Yahoo boys, internet scammers. It is the truth. It is the truth. It is not nice to say, but they are actually propping up the economy. And when there is no job and there is nothing to fall back on, and this is another thing, it is a terrible thing. It is true. It is a terrible thing, but it is very difficult to extricate dishonesty when it is so helpful. I don't want to use that word, but it's taking people out of poverty. if you were in Nigeria, a few years back, before this internet scam thing became so popular, you couldn't walk on the street. With people you did not know. You would be approached by people. The robbery was constant, a lot of things. And now it's like, especially with how the confraternities push this thing onto younger boys. It is you're a smart guy when you go make money. And these people are not lazy, because these internet scams require a lot of sense. I'm being honest. Sometimes you hear how they do it and you're like, how did you come up with this thing? And these people do not sleep. They do not sleep. They are not lazy. They do not sleep. They are working. And the thing is, they feel like they are working. Yeah, and they are encouraged for it.
Yeah, illegally.
And they are encouraged for it. It's difficult to make a person like that honest.
Let me be honest with you. Mr. Desain, can I respond to this, please? Brother, as much as I agree with what you say, at the same time, over here at the SASN, we don't condone those kind of open criminal behavior. For example, the Yahoo boys, and number one, first of all, I don't agree Nigeria has a middle class. Let me be honest with you. And this is coming from somebody that I'm going to be straight up with you. I come from a very privileged background. I made everything of my own, but my parents are very wealthy. I'm not going to lie to you. One. Secondly, another situation that's happened, the whole concept of middle class with Nigerians, that's the same tool that the politicians are using to keep people poor. Two. Thirdly, the whole concept of Yahoo boys are doing something that they are very smart. If you're so smart, how come you couldn't make money legally? Three. Number four, we're prompting this whole thing of, the Yahoo boys are flexing. For example, we literally had people, all of Nigerians now are known for scamming. But if you Google it, a simple Google search would show you Nigeria is not even in the top 5 countries of scammers. You've got Russia, you've got China, you've got India, but Nigerians are the loudest. Because every place I go, I see Nigerians, they are flexing. When you go to real places like the Four Seasons, you wouldn't see them. If you go to Eden here in London, there are Nigerians balling with balls. Ritz-Carlton, not Nigerians. Four Seasons, never see Nigerians. Go to Dubai, they would be in the biggest places that's busiest to show off that they have money of illegal proceeds. And by default, that's tainting the country in general, making it harder for people. Let me give you an example. As it stands right now, I had to buy a Grenadian passport. Because Nigerian passport, anywhere I apply, they reject it.
Yes.
I literally have upcoming trips, like 5 to 6 countries I'm going to. If I were to go through with my Nigerian passport, it'd take me 3 months to secure a visa. But right now, if you just buy a passport, you can travel anywhere you want. Why? Because of the Yahoo boys. Just recently, Qatar has also blocked Nigerian males from going to their country. That is true. Dubai has banned it. Now, literally, what they were saying to me is right now, if you're looking for, as a Nigerian, to go to Dubai, you probably have to get golden visa, or you have to be over 45 years of age. So basically, the Yahoo boys are not helping by far. All they are doing is disrupting everything the country has. For example, every Nigerian will say to you, oh, my girl my girl was taken by a Yahoo boy. Because you, as a legal person, you can never outspend them. They're getting money to just act stupid with it. You can never outspend these people.
But I'm so sorry. If I could say one last thing, is you just said that you came from a privileged background. So I'm going to be very honest with you. I amongst most people, I'm seen as someone that came from a privileged background, but I had a very rough phase in my life before I began to straighten up. So I spent a lot of time around people, and this is what I am going to tell you. This is the honest truth: is your morals fade very fast when you are hungry. When you're hungry, and I feel like you have the privilege to speak.
Let me hold you guys both right there. I agree, and I agree with both of you guys 100%. I agree with both of you guys 100%. And there is a reality that when you are hungry, there's certain things that you'll do. And I've been in crime, so I can certainly say that probably a lot of what we're seeing from some of the more flashy Nigerian scammers is not to cure themselves of hunger, right? They're trying to get the finer things in life. But and that is what it is. But the correct thing that we do know is that we must teach integrity full stop. And for those who are scamming, we still need to be able to refine them. And over time, as the economy develops, we'll be able to pull more of them out of that. And Nigerians will be lifted out of poverty as the economy develops, which is going to require certain things. So we're all agreed here. And even with crime, there's the method of how you do it, which is to say, even if you're doing the wrong thing, there's still a right way to do the wrong thing. And if you're scamming, say, millions of dollars, being flashy with it is probably the wrong way to do the wrong thing. So even in that, like they're screwing up. But I think we're all agreed here. One thing I want to pull us back to, and folks, let me know if my audio is cracking. I hope we're getting good quality audio here. And I agree with you guys wholeheartedly, because I've done business across the world, including Africa. And, frankly, I think that, of course, if you're African, you have a greater lens to analyze. But, I've been cheated damn near everywhere, unfortunately. So human trickery and deceit is not an uncommon thing. In fact, I'd say the two grimiest places I've ever been in terms of low quality people, no disrespect to these countries, just a matter of fact, is number one, Egypt, and number two, Jordan. So not even places in Africa in terms of deceit and trickery and theft. So anyways, we need to talk about what we're teaching in terms of integrity, and it has to be twofold. The aspect of teaching integrity, oh crap, I just accidentally enlarged that. Okay. In terms of teaching integrity, the number one piece is that you have integrity because of who you are. So you're creating an identity whereby someone says, I have integrity because I'm Nigerian, because I'm a Black person, I have integrity. It is a part of my identity to have integrity because I'm Black and because I'm Nigerian and because I'm Igbo or Xhosa or whatever the hell, or Zulu or what have you. So it's attaching those two things and identifying them together. And then the other piece of teaching capitalism, also teaching that integrity is a critical point of being able to engage in business. So as we teach entrepreneurship and capitalism, we teach integrity as a function of it. So I agree that has to be a huge part. And also, as we go through, we have these three categorizations of saint, good person, bad person. And so we teach people the saint. These are obviously people who are part of this thing of ours, this culture. So we know that they're vetted and verified. And then a good person may be someone who, they might not be a member, but they're displaying good characteristics. We still have a suspicion of them. And then a bad person are those who are just unrepentant criminals. It's your women who sell their body. It's the people who not only commit crimes, but they're not doing it to feed themselves. They're doing it to floss on you. So people who have low qualities, and those are the people that we actually have to disparage. So not only are we creating a culture of what is, we're also creating a culture of what is not. And this will have to come through not only outright education, but also through a renaissance in the arts. And so we have to push out music, dance, holidays, all of these different things that reinforces culture. Like, for example, in the United States, I'm sure you guys see all the twerking and things like that, which means that we have to eradicate that as a public form of dance and replace it with something else. Same thing is true in the continent. And also we have to deal with the truth. Like, for example, the Saint was saying that, in the North, we follow Sharia, people are behaving, we don't have single moms. At a level, I believe it, because I notice people tend to speak really well of where they're from, whatever their culture is, and there's always a level of exaggeration. And so we have to deal with what's real, or else we're not going to be able to be effective at the appropriate level. Because even in conservative Muslim countries, like, you see the most outrageous things. So there's a lot of work to be done. And also we want to supplement religion. Like, for example, I get a lot of Muslim brothers will reach out to me. They'll say, Marquett, wallahi, I feel very strongly driven sexually and I don't want to commit, various forms of immorality. I don't want to commit zina. I don't want to do this and that. What do I do? Well, I tell them, well, number one, you're not talking to a sheikh. So I'm not about to tell you what your imam tells you. I'm not going to tell you not to have intercourse. I'm going to tell you to be highly selective with who you do have intercourse and always use protection. and be thoughtful about the quality of this woman in the off chance that she does end up pregnant. I'm going to tell you to make sure that the woman's of the appropriate age and morality, and to do natural things in the best way possible. So we want to make sure that we're providing the most practical guide to life for this generation that is coming up. And you guys, you two men, are going to be the people that are on the ground, and you're going to be the ones that they follow and that will teach them. You're the revolutionaries of today and tomorrow. Like, that's why you guys are here. And our goal is to not be the preachers. It's to actually be the doers. We have no, especially in Nigeria, there's no shortage of intelligent people in Nigeria. There's a great shortage of people who get shit done. And that's really where our sweet spot has to be. And remember, even for those who might be low income, and that's why SASN Africa as a model is going to be different than our other locations, the wealth that you always are going to have, especially in Nigeria, is population. Is population. You know, we can easily get, 100,000 people messing with this ism and then push it out from there. So even if we went into a particular town or village in Nigeria and it was low income, I still want 100% of that population following ism, and it's very low cost to convey information. So that is going to be one of our advantages. I want to yield the floor to any of you guys to respond to any of the items or the particular notes on integrity and identity. I yield the floor.
Can I go first, brother?
Yeah, all right, sure. I love something that you said. Tackling music, and this. We as Nigerians grew up to love America, and honestly, whatever America trickles down, everyone drinks. And that's one thing Americans need to understand. That's how much influence you have over the rest of the world. When you're at the top, everyone is influenced by you. And with the increase in twerking culture and
Right.
and sort of ratchet kind of thing, it's very much encouraged here. And when you add that with poverty, and you add that with the amount of poverty that's happening in Nigeria, one thing is people need distractions, and sex is a very, very big distraction. So we all fall for that. And another thing is immorality is an almost guaranteed way of making money. And I really love what you said, about integrity, and because it's something we see that is really fading from our society, and I love that talk about trying to bring it back, because this is something I say. It's something I say so much that people are tired of hearing. I really love that. Thank you.
Yes, and exercise. Because you're right. One of the most popular things that we use to recruit in our other markets is exercise, and it's the group exercise. Like, as I said, SASN San Antonio, which is in Texas, they're going to have like a river run, like a 5-mile river run. I don't know how many kilometers that is, maybe like 8. And they're all doing it together. And that's one of the beautiful things about running. I know you guys probably play a lot of soccer, so maybe we'll host some soccer. But when you're doing a 5-mile run, it's great rigorous activity. But most importantly, you don't need any materials. There's no expenses to it, so anyone can do it anywhere. And those are the kind of things we want folks on the ground organizing on a regular basis. So I love how you're thinking, because I can tell you're very much so a pragmatist, because you're thinking about how people spend their time. And that's really what we're trying to impact. Not only the thoughts in here, but how the thoughts turn into the actions of how people behave and spend that time. So that was brilliant. I yield the floor.
Yeah, absolutely, Peace to the Saints. I think this is something that we can certainly do. And for me, I can have a couple of people that I know to be my personal friends that are good people that we can start with. The reason why that's important is a lot of them have significant amount of reach. So which means places that we need to organize. I personally, me and my family, we own a couple of hotels. We can literally host the Saints in one of our hotels in case if we need to, one. Secondly is I've got people in the, top ranks, whatever we need to do in terms of the government involvement, where you don't need people to be involving themselves by, getting people to penetrate your organization or getting harassed by the police. Because sometimes what people do is once you organize people, you might have someone that doesn't like what you're doing. He's just going to use the power to send and disrupt stuff like that. We can have that sorted as well. But I think for me, the number one contribution is I have places that we can host the Saints, and I've got a couple of people that would pledge with their money, and I'm pledging my money. I would start right now as I'm speaking to show I'm serious. $200 right now. I'm going to start with by pledging that. And then moving forward, every month, wherever we decide the price is for us to be able to host and keep the Saints around us, we can literally take it from there. I mean, we can work out the numbers because I saw one of the video of one of the Saints was saying this is the amount it's going to require for every person be put in towards building the center. So as it stands right now in Africa as well, infrastructure will be very necessary because you cannot have the Saints just out in the public. Like you need to find somewhere where they would be able to gather, organize, and talk about each other. If we need place, I've got places. I have hotels, security, everything sorted. That would be my first thing that I would pledge to the Saints.
And speaking of, so shout out to the people who do support the training center. I saw just today we had someone Kinchley supported the training center. We appreciate you. And that's something that's for the people, for the Saints. So if you find that link, which will be in the description of the YouTube video or the Twitch page, please do hit it. And I appreciate you mentioning that. So let's do this. I actually was able to get my visa, my Nigerian visa approved. It was initially denied for political reasons, but I'll be flying in tonight. I'm going to schedule a trip into Benin and as well Nigeria circa late December, early January. So let's get on the ground, whether you're there or not. I know you may be in the UK, but let's get on the ground in Nigeria somewhere and figure out where we can host our first thing. Because the other gentleman, and say your last name for me. I'm going to ask you to say it 30 more times. You have to forgive me. I'm going to write it down right now. Hit me with that last name.
Bafade.
Bafade.
Yeah, Bafade.
Mr. Bafade had mentioned debate. I don't think mostly we're going to persuade people with debate. I think the people we're debating, they're not going to have their minds changed, but the people watching are going to be influenced. And those are the ones we're actually going for. And so we will do debates, and most importantly, the aesthetic of how we show up. You know, we're all blacked out, everybody uniform, and we have a real strong message. Wherever we go in the world, that's always going to show up very strongly. So I'll give you guys a piece of homework. If you can actually get the homework done, we'll know that folks are serious. You guys know Nigeria better than I do. Wherever there's the closest thing to a speaker's corner or a place where people gather and debate or talk, or there's high foot traffic where we can show up with like a handheld sign and perhaps a microphone and engage people. Let's identify where that spot is. We want to get there on the ground, have some discussions, and then we want to host a workout the next day. A little bit of boxing, a little bit of jump rope and burpees and all that good stuff. And we want to recruit as many people as possible to do it. A free event just to start putting our stake in the ground there. And that's the first thing we want to do. And just a little peek of the future. Eventually, we'll want to host a conference in the continent. But I think that would be a nice first step. So the piece of homework, one piece of homework is the where in Nigeria. And when you think about this, I want you to consider this. We have a huge amount of Nigerians that follow us. They're mostly outside of Nigeria. We have a lot in Nigeria, but they're going to want to fly in for this event. So think in terms of ease of access from a major airport.
I have a particular idea to the Saints. There is this particular place, the Hilton, Transcorp Hilton. That's where every Nigerian, like some people, if you say you're hosting event in the Transcorp, people that want nothing to do with an event will show up just to say they've been there.
Okay.
Because it's a place that, many people feel like they don't have access to. Me, on the other hand, we will talk about it probably offline. It's quite easy. And I have one of the other Saint, Imran. If you're watching this, we need your help on this one, man. I know you're really connected with those people. So if you're watching this, because he's a Saint as well. So if you're watching this, we need to make that happen. If you are having it in Transcorp Hilton, number one, it's in the middle of Abuja, it's in the middle of the capital, which means from wherever you are coming, if you're coming from the north, south, wherever you're coming, Abuja is easy. to get to.
Okay.
Because Lagos, there is too much traffic. If you have a couple of people walking around, you would probably cause much more traffic than usual because Lagos is normally packed. Abuja has bigger highways, you can get to places. So an airport is not too far as well. So we can have people flying into Abuja to Transcope. If you say anything, any celebrity that's doing any sort of thing, if he does it in Transcope, people show up because people know it's a place where people just come to take pictures. So if we're trying to put out the message, we need somewhere that would attract the average Nigerian, because unfortunately, the average Nigerian is looking for what's cool. What is the, I know it's unfortunate, but they're looking for what's cool. So if we're looking for a place where we would easily be able to do that, and a lot of foreigners stay there because it's safe. So we would be able to gather people and get them to Transcorp, because Lagos is too packed. We could do it in Lagos, but it's just too much people, too packed. Like you wouldn't be able to walk, like gather people, walk around without causing too much traffic. So I think Abuja, Lagos is 1 hour from. Kind of all of these places, people would be easily able to get it. I don't know how what my other Nigerian brother thinks about it. Transcorp,
Yeah,
Hilton.
never been there, but you know, there is one thing I would have suggested. You know, the timing is just not the best. I would have suggested university. Universities are very open to things like this, and I very much believe in capturing the minds of young people with a lot of energy. You know, there are certain schools that really encourage talks like this, like Babcock University. Babcock loves things like this. It's super easy to organize. I really wish it were, you know, a time with students. But you know, you said December, yeah. You know, that was what I was thinking.
That doesn't
Otherwise,
have to be the date of the actual event. That could be the date in which we're, you know, I just get on the ground and we do a little bit of preliminary research and have some initial conversations. So right now, I just want to take some notes here. So Abuja sounds like the city, and then you proposed a university, and then Salah, what was the name of the venue?
Transcorp Hilton.
Transcorp.
Yeah, Hilton.
Transcorp Hilton. Okay. And maybe we can do both. But what I'll do is I'll make sure that we can take a look at those places in December, if nothing else. And Mr. Bafade, if you can see if I can get a lecture set up at the university and figure out who we need to talk to, I'm happy to have my people talk, or I'll engage them if we can get on email. Happy to give a business lecture in the software business, or just in entrepreneurship in general, international business, what have you, just so that we can make those connections and that presence. And at the very least, figure out how we can do something on campus. Let's get after it.
Just a question for my Nigerian brother. You know, because the reason why I didn't suggest any university, you know, Marquett had a bit of problem getting visa because of his political views. And the universities you're particularly talking about, a lot of them are government funded, as you know, unless you're going for a private university.
it is a private university.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's
In that
welcome to
case,
a lot
we
of
can do
people.
Nile, we can do all of those then. Because if you're
Yeah,
going for a public university, say ABU's area, you're going for Unilag, you're going for these big universities,
yeah.
majority of them don't want our kind of view, like the Saints kind of view, because it goes against what they are trying to push out. So that's why we got to be considerate of the place as well. Because if you go with a message, if you normally go with a Western rhetoric, they will let you be. But when you go about integrity, about stuff like that, where you have the lecturers sleeping with young girls, they wouldn't allow it. That's why. They wouldn't allow it. That's why.
For certain private schools. First of all, I would have suggested Lagos. This is the truth. It's no matter the issue that may exist, you understand, with the transportation and whatnot, Lagos is much more better. You know, it's much better for you know, things like this usually. You know, they love young people, and they love people with energy, and it's the hub of everything. Lagos would be good. I don't know how well for Abuja, but you said now university, and that makes a lot of sense. You said now,
Now,
yes.
excellent.
Yeah. That makes, but for Babcock, honestly speaking, as long as you are not speaking against Christianity, you're welcome in Babcock. That's the truth.
I could hold that in. I could absolutely hold that in. And Mr. Bafade, I'll tell you this. One of the ways I run business is some ideas we know that they're bad just off rip. We're like, that was dumb. But if we're not certain that an idea is dumb, I always say, go ahead, try it out, which is to say, like, see what you can get done on it. So for example, if you say, hey, I like Lagos, I like this particular university in Lagos, see if you can get us something moving, because we all know when I fly into Nigeria, I'm going to fly into Lagos airport. So I'm already going to be there. So it'll be easy to make some moves in Lagos and then catch a bird over to Abuja. Because for sure the major port of entry is Lagos in Nigeria. So that would be easy to do. So if you can get something done or connected there, please do. And let's get some moves. I'll just tell you guys, I theorize, and I'll just give you a sneak peek here at how we want to expand. I actually wrote a paper on this in 2007 when I was in university, which my professor hated, but so this is SASN phase 1. These are the initial countries that we're going to engage. Then we're going to go from those countries. Once we're really strong in those countries, it'll be easy to rapidly take the remaining countries in West, Central, and Southern Africa. And then once we've taken all of that, then we will take the entire continent. The key here in terms of this expansion is the actual engine of this is Nigeria. And once we do these expansions, which will be from an ideological standpoint to start with, eventually we actually do want Nigeria to literally take over these countries, because Nigeria is the powerhouse. Nigeria just has not flexed its muscles yet. When you look at natural resources, access to coastline, significant military, Nigeria is the strength in this part of Africa. And I do believe that Nigeria should eventually gobble up those countries and provide for true unification. Just like you have a United States of America and a federal system, Nigeria will be the head of a United States of Africa with a federal system, and Nigeria as the heart of it. There really aren't any other players that I think are as well positioned for such a thing. There'll be other areas that are strong. Like there's no doubt that Ethiopia has a lot of potential from position, but they don't even have access to coastline, right? So Nigeria has a really unique strength in the context of the continent. Sudan is enormous, Congo is resource rich, but the Congolese don't control Congo, and the Sudanese don't control Sudan. At least we can say the Nigerians mostly control Nigeria. And so I think that over time, and this is a multi-decade plan, Nigeria will be the stronghold that captures all the rest of those places. I yield the floor. Any comments, questions?
Go ahead, brother.
Fantastic.
Go
Let
ahead.
me catch up.
Go ahead, brother. I thought he had something. Yes, BTC. I certainly agree. Nigeria needs to gobble up those countries. And one thing about it is, over time, if you look at, say, the Afrobeats, for example, if you look at anything that comes out of Nigeria over time, I know a lot of Africans, people would argue about Afrobeats at the origins, but the Nigerian music has infiltrated a lot of African countries. Once you have Nigeria, Ghana is just next door. And once you have Nigeria, you have Ghana. Once you have Ghana, you have a couple of other countries around Africa. So I do agree, certainly, once we get a base in Nigeria, it would be fairly easy to get to all of those other places, honestly. And I think we can make something happen in Nigeria. The whole point of, knowing people, growing up with people is so we can use those connections when time needs be. And this is one of those times. We're in a serious times, as we like to talk. So anybody that we hit up that's not serious now, we know we can't be friends anymore. You're not on serious time. So I think we can certainly make anything happen. Peace to the Saints. Anything you want, just let me know and we get to organize. And I will do the rest of the assignment, which is to see the best strategic locations. I was speaking to places where I have power, where we can make things happen immediately.
And that's where we have to start. We have to start where we have the existing relationships that are reliable, people that we can trust, especially if we're going to end up bringing in people who matter into Nigeria. There's another saint in Ghana, and I wanted to visit the brother again. Ghana denied me a visa. Now imagine an American passport getting denied so many different places in Africa. It's very strange, right? They denied me a visa in Ghana. But there's a brother over there, very well off, a smart brother. And I know that if we can establish something worthwhile in Nigeria, the brothers from Ghana is going to come over. The brothers from South Africa, the brothers from Ethiopia are going to come over. And so we have to make sure that we can bring them into a highly predictable environment that removes all of the negative notions about Nigeria. And anytime the Saints do anything, whether it's in America, Europe, Nigeria, the Middle East, we're always doing things in a very organized, militant, efficient, and polite way anyway. So we're just going to continue our existing culture there in the Nigerian landscape. I do want to acknowledge some of the folks who support the workshop. To Akash, he writes, there aren't enough of us on Twitch. The Saints on YouTube need to come watch on Twitch. Peace of the Saints in a real way. I mean, we got to make moves. I don't know that we'll be able to wage a movement if we can't move people from YouTube to Twitch. Now, I so acknowledge Mr. Salah, who's on screen. He writes, peace of the Saints. I sent over an email to you, and you can check my IG to verify who I am. And shout out to people being real. You dig? It's a lost art. I also acknowledge Bryn, supporting work, writes, peace of the Saints. Thank you for this movement from South Africa. Shout out to my South Africans. You guys have the most attractive women on earth. You hear me? Shout out to Portia. Man, I'm trying to tell you.
I'm half South African, so I was there.
Kidding.
Like, yeah, my mom is South African, so it's crazy.
Boy, you better stay out
I was
of there.
in Ethiopia. I know. I was in Ethiopia when you said it. At the time, I was like, ooh. I've been to a lot of African countries, Saint. You might be the only person that travels more than me, but I do travel a lot. And I was there. I was like, this is dangerous. It was in Ramadan. I was like, ooh.
Not, bruh.
I was like, yeah, it's dangerous.
Shout out to Portia, comes in by PayPal. May I also acknowledge Kyle with the baller alert. Shout out to the first baller alert on stream. He writes, an ism-based form of Christianity packaged as the true way to practice the religion. Now, this is genius, actually. And offered to the nations we've selected. It will be easier to refine Christianity by removing the racism and adding the practical portions of Marquettism than to replace it. This man is correct. So let's go ahead and update that real quick. He is 100% correct.
That's wonderful.
Yes, and this man, and that's why we bring together these great minds. And one thing that just trips me out, and I always reference Ethiopia. When they hit me with that white Jesus in Africa, I'm like, I'm fine seeing the white Jesus in America, but it's like, word, in Africa? That's crazy.
The white Jesus thing.
Yeah, you've seen them around Nigeria?
Yeah, everywhere. Honest, I don't want to create enemies for myself. Is why I'm not even being too specific about it. But the white Jesus thing has to go.
I mean, we can look at the idealization of the white man just in South Africa. So you can kind of have an understanding on why Africans behave the way we do. You know, the idealization is unbelievable.
Yeah, you know, if you say Jesus could not have been white to most Nigerians, you're either troublesome or just plain wrong, because every Nigerian.
Wait, I just enlarged you. Start that over so the people can hear you.
Okay, you know, if you say to a Nigerian, Jesus could not have been white, it honestly, and if just absolutely could not have been white, there's way too much that you know that alludes to him being to him being brown. And honestly speaking, I would say of a much darker kind of brown. You know, I mean, he hid in Egypt at a time when most people in Egypt were very brown skinned, you know, very dark skinned. Why would he hide there if he looks like a European? This you know, a lot of people don't even understand the ethnogenesis. A lot of people don't understand that, because Egypt sits in the middle of more than one continent. They are constantly invaded. They are constantly, you know, and over 2,000 years. It is normal that they look like something in the middle of all these countries. If you go 2,000 years back, you cannot, you know, you cannot expect Jesus Christ. And I don't get it. I don't understand why this thing has been peddled. And if you say, you know, even when people have no argument, when you say, no, Jesus could not have been white, the next thing you hear is okay, why is it such a big deal to you? It should be a big deal to you.
Hey, that sounds very Nigerian. Like, there's certain things that, like, the way Nigerians structure arguments is always funny as hell. But it's like you're having the argument and like, well, why does it matter so much to you? You're like,
why does it matter so much to you? You know, it should matter to you. It should matter that the representative of our deity is being changed to look like something else, and you cannot tell me there is no agenda behind that. It is something extremely worrying. And the thing is, sometimes for a lot of Nigerians, they have no reason to believe this. The only reason is repetition. And that's something that we need to target. We need to help them get out of the cage of being unable to accept something that is not familiar. They need to be able to accept something because it makes logical sense, because it is true, not because it is repeated to them over and over again.
True.
But we also must take that strategy and repeat over and over again this ism. Right? Like we now have we have to wash out the filth and bring in something better. So I think that we're very privileged in that, often, I don't know if you guys see this on social media. Sometimes you'll see on social media, there's like a racial conflict between like some racist whites and some blacks. And, a black guy ends up slapping somebody and he says, hey, we're not like our ancestors, which is to say, like, you might have whipped them and like had them under control, but like black people today, we're not going for it. And I think similarly, Africans of today are not what they've been portrayed as in the past, especially not in certain countries. Like I recently posted a video, a reaction to a reel. I think it was in Kenya. I feel like it was in Kenya. It was a white South African in Kenya, basically abusing the black Kenyan police, and they were just taking it like fools. And it's shocking that it was in Kenya. It felt more like a South African reaction. But I say that to say, I'm pretty confident that would have never happened in certain African countries. Like I couldn't see that happening in Nigeria. I couldn't see that happening in certain like places. And that's a good thing. There has been a level of progress, even though we're not all the way there. And I believe that we have enough of the right mentality and certainly enough intelligence that we can get this done in this era that we're in right now.
True. I mean, just to the Saints, but this is the biggest thing is that the average Nigeria, rather than taking action, and I love my people, I love to see my people prosper, but we need to address the real issues. A lot of people come on social media, they talk about these things. A lot of Nigerians would babble what they see, but never put any action to it. For example, many people, I literally read comment this morning of people seeing Trump saying he's going to invade Nigeria, and people are saying, oh my God, Jesus has finally answered our prayer. I'm like, word?
That's crazy.
Word? That is crazy. That's insane. And then you go over there to the Egyptians, because I remember you saying that about Egypt, and I ended up traveling to Egypt, and I experienced the same thing. I was saying this to the brothers that I went to university with here. I said, listen, your country, I get that you're building, your tourist attraction centers and stuff. I said, but it's terrible. It's just the
Right.
truth. I said, no way your ancestors created those pyramids you guys keep arguing about. No way, man. No way. The way you are is just not going to happen. So one of the things that we need to do is also have a social media interaction with Nigerians, because many of them, you wouldn't see them in person. Many people would just get data. He knows this. Many people would get data and just stay at home and keep tweeting. They would just keep downloading whatever the media pushes out on them. The same thing I've realized continuously around the African continent. People would say something. I'm like, how do you get that? They go, well, I read it. And I'm like, do you never question what you read? You hear these things. You're just like, yeah, I've literally taken it in, but you didn't question why. Why was that pushed onto you? Why was that mentioned to you? Why is that even tried on you? Actually, I've been questioning myself. Because look at Nigeria right now. As we're speaking about going to Nigeria, we need to look at the powers in play. Bill Gates is practically Nigerian now. Why? All of a sudden, my man left America to go become a Nigerian at this
Bro,
point.
it's Fulani, huh?
I know. This point. So you really have to question what's going on here. So that's why I think we need to make our mark as the Saints at this point, because I'm too tired of seeing what's happened. That's why I can't live in the country anymore at this point. I can still, family, got everything over there. But we need to be able to have trusted saints. Now, if I didn't grow up with you, or I know you're actually trustworthy, I don't even associate. But one of some of the saints that are my friends, they actually watch, and they have a lot of significant connection. And then lastly, what I was going to say, peace to the saints. And if you still need a Ghanaian visa, just 3 days ago, if you can see on my Instagram, on my highlights, and I was with the Ghanaian ambassador here. She's a good friend of mine. I just literally went to congratulate her. So in case we can talk about that off camera, in case if you need the visa to get over there, she's a
I
she's a good
appreciate
friend
it.
of
I
mine.
kind of gave up on them because they pissed me off. But as of now, my African travels will probably be limited just for this next time because I have a lot of things going. I'm going to hit Nigeria, Benin, and Ethiopia. I might stop in Ethiopia. We'll see. It always is calling my name. But probably those
Just
three
to the sides.
places. Yes, yes, indeed. Let me ask you guys this. For this kind of conversation, how often do you think that we should try to have this kind of conversation that we're having right now?
Honestly speaking, there is so much that could be talked about this. I could have this conversation every single day. So I could, every time,
People have work.
yeah, every time a sentence is thrown, I have things to say. Like, if you would allow me, about what you just said. No, I don't believe Nigerians are non-action takers. I mean, look at the last time we took action. There was a massacre in Lekki toll gates, and those numbers you are seeing, those numbers are not real.
Of course,
There's
true.
not many people died. I know, and I try not to really go into why I know, because I'm
Yeah,
I'm not really
don't go into that.
supposed to. I'm not really, certain things I'm not supposed to say. I try to avoid, but there were a lot more deaths, and this is one thing we are really lacking, and that's why this is so important. It's not like the Nigerians do not have the zeal. It's sometimes it takes one spark to start a revolution. Look at what happened in Nepal. A ridiculous mistake by government officials cost all that. And what we really lack is revolutionaries. We do not have a lot of people with not just well, we do have the intellect, but we have a lot of people with the zeal, or who've been really trained to stand up to stand up against the status quo. And sometimes all it takes is one person. You could train 10 people, you could train 100, and one person changes everything. I have no. I could visit somewhere else, and I used to have that mentality. Remember, I said I grew up loving America, but as it stands, even if Nigeria burned to the ground, I will live here. And I think that's such a powerful mentality, because it is such a powerful mentality because you are forced to care. When there is no out, I will not give myself an out. I really do care. I have grown to care, and it is such an incredible rabbit hole. The more you see, the more you care, the more fire you have, the angrier you are, and the more you learn, and the more you want to tackle. There's one last thing I'm going to say, because I don't want to overtalk anyone. One thing that we very particularly need to target is our perspective of beauty. That's one thing we need to completely change. We need to stop worshipping the Indian hair. If you see what I've seen about how the hair is even gotten, it's incredibly sad. This is hair they are cutting off for terrible reasons, and we are running for it. We want this thing because we've been told that our hair is wool, and theirs as it's silky and smooth is what beauty is, and it is not true. And one thing that made me really understand this is, don't get it wrong. I'm at a stage right now where I fell for a very particular.
Solid. Did the brother?
Maybe his network froze something.
Okay. Yeah, we'll give him some time. Honestly, I was shocked that his network was doing so damn well for so long. I'm like, how do I never get Wi-Fi like this on the continent?
It's excellent sometimes. So
really
it is. But I think, to be honest, realistically, both you're very busy, man. I'm very busy. I think it would make more sense if we do it on a monthly basis, meaning we give a bunch of assignments and we see who is serious. Like, we give assignments over a month and we see what progress somebody has made. That's when we get to filter out who is serious and who is not. Because the last thing we want is we keep organizing and with people that are unserious. So we give a month, I think, would make more sense. Like, at the end of a month, we hear progress and what's going on in the content and what's the new update. What can we do about that? I think that's more realistic. Talking about it every day. I love the brother, but talking about it every day is just impossible. Like, that would be whining and complaining rather than doing actions, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But I think we can certainly try to coordinate and see what we can do every month to see what progress we can make over there in Africa, especially
Okay.
Nigeria specifically.
Absolutely. Okay, I like that. And I think there's definitely value in having the conversation and bring, because when we have the conversation, the people who are listening get to learn about the ism, and people who may not have known, and it brings more people into the understanding of the beliefs and the action, and also we get to have like a nice checkpoint. But I agree, too much frequency, there won't be much that we could have done. But I know that there's a lot in terms of conversations and just like planning out the ideology, but really they'll have to be work sessions. Like we might have to come here, hop on the live session, we might live stream it and say, okay, what's our campaign that we want to push out. So he mentioned like the beauty, if we want to push out a campaign on natural hair in Nigeria, let's plan it and let's actually create some images, and then let's start pushing it out. You see what I'm saying?
True.
Yeah.
But peace to the saying, that one is a massive one to tackle. I think we need proper organizing, because average Nigerian girl, you meet her, what are you doing? Oh, I need to buy a wig. I don't think there is anything they worship more than their wigs, which I hate it. It's terrible. I don't allow any woman I date to literally have a wig. But generally, it's going to be a tough one. I think we are best to deal with the men as it stands.
Yes.
Once we deal with the men, the organizers, the money givers over there, once we deal with them, then we can start to go into the hair and all sort of things, because we cannot just hate that right now. Because there will be a lot of Sims that would agree with us, and the minute we get off the line, they're like, listen, baby, I'll buy you more wigs. So we need to get those minds first before we are able to. Because one thing that I dislike these days, you meet a girl, we shake hands, hey, where are you from? I'm Nigerian. She already thinks she can fleece me, because these Nigerians are over there just spending too much. So because of that, now they just meet you, oh my God, I need to buy a new hair. I'm like, nah, no, under my watch. It's just not happening. So I think we need to tackle the men, the money givers, and the people that are able to deal with that first before we move on to that one.
I like
Hello,
that.
brother. I see he's back.
Okay. Just taking some notes here. Male-focused strategy. Great. And let me acknowledge some of the folks sending in comments, questions. Shout out to Joseph supporting the work, came in via Venmo. May I also acknowledge Arthur. He writes, we have to address the tribal issues, especially the Northern Muslims versus the Igbos or Yorubas. Yeah, and it's really putting everyone under that idea of we're Black people and also we're saints. And so that's going to be a given. So I think we got that one at least written down, and then we'll have to define strategy and specific language around pushing that. And thank you to the handful of folks who have supported the work. We appreciate you. I think we ought to go ahead and wind down because I'm hungry. So I gotta, I'm actually hungry. I appreciate both of you guys coming on. I'm really proud of both of you, and I can't wait to see where you guys land in this work. And I want your names in these history books. I want statues of you guys. And I'm just so excited to get this work done, because this will be the greatest measure. I remember when there's this one guy named Dr. Renford Reese, I should say mentor formerly. And, all the Blacks in America were so excited when Barack Obama was running for office the first time. And this was early on, before anyone actually knew who he was. They're just like, Barack Obama, what kind of Black person's name is that? It was very early on. And he was hosting one of the earliest fundraisers for him. And I was like 16 years old. This is how long ago it was. I was a youngster, or actually, no, I wasn't 16. I was maybe 17 or 16, one or the other. And we were at Dr. Renford Reese's loft in Los Angeles, and he goes up and he's looking down at everyone, and he gave two short speeches. One was a poem about a minute. He says, I have just a minute. And he emphasizes, it has 60 seconds in it. I get to choose what I'm going to do with that time. If I wanted more, I can't get more. This is what I have. And just a piece on urgency. And then he goes on to the next piece, because it was a fundraiser. So he's trying to get people to open up the wallets. And he said, you guys will die as millionaires. Do you know what they say on a millionaire's tombstone? And then somebody in the audience like, well, what do they say? And he was like, nothing. Like, no one calculates your net worth on your tombstone. They don't put how much money you had on the tombstone. They put what you did, what you're a part of. And you have the chance to be a part of something really important right now. That always stuck with me. At the time, I was a youngster and, relative poverty, American poverty. And as I accumulated, I definitely became keenly aware that my greatest accomplishment won't be the Rolls Royce, the Maybach, the multi-million-dollar houses, and all of that. It's going to be when people want to immortalize you in a stone statue in their country, in their square, because you did something that mattered. And you didn't do something that matters for yourself. You did it for them. That's why they put up the statue of you. And I think that all of the people who step into this movement early in the continent, they're all going to be immortalized. So I'm excited to get this done. This one's for the history books. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure to have this time to fellowship with you all. Until next time, peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints.
Yes, indeed.
Mm.